everyone. I'm Glenn. This is my wife Brandy, and this is Las Vegas Backyard Prepper. Today we're going to do a quick little video on the Lem. Is it Lem? Nope, it's Lem butter churn. We got this off Amazon. We went with this brand. It seemed to be a little bit sturdier than some of the others out there. So we're going to go ahead and give it a shot. My wife Brandy's going to be helping out with the camera, bringing things if I need them. But we're going to show the whole process from start to finish of making butter with the Lem butter churn.
There you go.
Okay. So, most important thing is you just need to make sure you got the time to do it. With this churn, they say it takes about 10 to 15 minutes of constant churning for the butter fat to separate from the buttermilk. And you can use just pretty much any store-bought heavy whipping cream. If you happen to live near a farm, that's great because you can get the raw cream from there. But here in Vegas, we don't have any farms nearby, any kind of agriculture like that, so grocery store it is. Always make sure everything is nice and clean, washed. You don't want any kind of contaminants or anything getting in. Now what you want to do with your cream, you don't want to take it straight out of the refrigerator and try to do this. It definitely increases the time. We tried doing it using the shaker method with the quart mason jar, and after several hours of shaking it and wearing out my arms, my wife's arms, all 9 kids, we gave up on that. So most important thing is you want to have it room temperature. It could, ideally you're looking about 65-ish degrees. Now you just pour the butter or the heavy whipping cream in, and the important thing is you don't want to fill this all the way up. You need to have the room in it to allow the paddles to work. If you fill it all the way up, it's not going to do what it's supposed to do, and it's going to take you forever to get this churned. Screw it back on, finger tight, and start churning like this. I put a little pot holder underneath just so that way then it doesn't thump or rattle on the table. And you want to try to get a good speed going. The quicker you turn it, the faster the butter seems to form. Okay, so about 5 minutes has gone by, and it looks like we are at about the melted whipped cream stage. And so, gotta keep on churning. Okay, it's getting pretty thick now. Any second it should separate. You'll notice it really get tough on churning, and then all of a sudden it'll feel like it just cuts loose like that right there.
It's been 8 minutes.
So total time, yep, you can see all the butter solids turning inside the jar. Now, one thing you want to make sure of, you don't want to over churn it, because then it turns it into clabbered cream. Basically, you're breaking the butter fats back up and remixing them into the buttermilk. Clabbered cream does have its uses, but that's not what we're trying to make here. So let's give it another couple good spins. And we should be good to go. Alrighty, so we're going to move this over to the counter and do the rest of the process. Alrighty, so we're over at the counter now, and now we need to separate our butter from the buttermilk. A couple ways you can do that. Some people use a a little wire basket like this with some cheesecloth. This one is actually a pretty fine wire mesh, so you don't really need the cheesecloth. Just get yourself a little mason jar or some other container to store it in. They do have plastic lids at the store that you can use to put on your mason jars to close them up. If you're not going to be doing the water bath canning or pressure canning of anything, you can just use these for stuff that's going to be stored in the refrigerator. Make sure you label it, and I'll be writing today's date on there, so that way we know when it was put in. I'm going to go off screen for just a second, grab another bowl. That way I have something to put the paddle into my churn in while I'm doing this. Keep the mess down a little bit. Just need a little funnel so that way the buttermilk will go into the jar easier and not splash all over the place. And you just pour off the buttermilk. Alrighty. Now you will need a few supplies. You don't need to go and spend a bunch of money on the butter paddles and stuff you see on Amazon and all that. Dollar store, little bamboo spatula. You don't want to get anything with any kind of slots, however. You need something with a flat surface, otherwise the butter will get in between and it will kind of defeat the purpose of using the spatulas. And you'll need a nice silicone spatula as well. Now, one thing you're going to notice is that buttermilk will still keep seeping out of the butter. So one more drain. And then we get our butter into a clean glass bowl. You'll find it's still going to be pretty soft. And then just get a little bit of butter off the paddles here. There we go. Now, this first one here, you're going to squeeze out buttermilk. If you want to get the last couple drops, it's not a big deal. You're just going to take your paddle and kind of squeeze the butter over and press, and you can see that the buttermilk actually kind of beads up and out. So, like I said, if you want to get the last couple drops, just like that. And now we start the rinsing. You need some cold water. That'll help firm the butter up a little bit, make it a little easier to work with. And you want to rinse the butter until the water comes out clear. So you want to get it down into the water, and you're going to kind of separate a little bit. Everybody's got their own technique, their own way of doing it. This is what I found works best for us. That helps cool the butter down a little bit, makes it a little bit easier to work with. You do not want to use hot water. hot water, the butter will just melt and it'll be worthless. You just want to kind of press it. You're trying to press out all of the remaining buttermilk. Now if this is butter that you're going to be using right away, like you're making a batch and you're going to use it all up in one go, then this step isn't really necessary. You can just put it in a container and get it ready for use. Pour off the water. And then we do it again. Some cold water. You just kind of fold it over and press it. You're trying to squeeze out all of the liquid, all the buttermilk from the butter. So when you go to do this, a really good way to do this is have like a shaker cup or something. Fill it half full with water, stick it in the freezer. Let it freeze up, and then you can pour water in when you're ready to start, and that will give you some nice cold water to do this with. And you'll see each time as I do this, the water is getting a little less cloudy each time. And make sure you rinse it really good. The reason why we do it this way is because here in Las Vegas, our cold water from the tap doesn't get very cold. Oh, we don't want a piece of ice.
Ice, ice, baby. Mm-hmm.
And as you can see, the water is far less cloudy than it was when we first started. I've seen some people use 2 paddles. I don't think it's necessary. They sit here and they'll do this thing like they're tossing a salad. Not necessary. want to keep doing this until the water is completely clear.
How many times do you think it is right now?
I think this is like the 4th or 5th time.
I didn't count.
And that's the thing, it can vary. Looks like we'll probably have to go one more time. And now with the butter, you can see that as I press it, the water is pretty much clear. Probably go one more time just to make sure. That's one of the things you want to make sure you do if you want your butter to be storable in the fridge. The more of the buttermilk that you can squeeze out, the better, the longer that it'll preserve for in the fridge. Almost clear. Let me go get some more water. We'll move on to the next step. A little more, make sure we got all the buttermilk out. Alrighty, looks like we're good. The water looks clear. So just do one more fold just to make sure. Let's see, we're good to go. Now, some people like to salt their butter, some people don't. If you don't want salted butter, then you're done at this step right here. You can wrap the butter in wax paper, you can put it into a container, store it in the fridge. We have the good old trusty Tupperware from back in the day, and that's what we keep our butter in. However, if you do salt it, the butter does seem to last longer in the fridge. You don't have to use it up as quickly. Now, for salting butter, you want to go by, for the amount of salt, you want to go by how much heavy whipping cream you start with. So we started with half of a quart, and what I've always been taught is that you want to use half a teaspoon per quart of heavy whipping cream. So you want to go with a 1/4 teaspoon, and you can use the pink Himalayan salt, regular salt, whichever salt you prefer. There's a lot of different types of salt out there.
And colors.
We just use regular non-iodized table salt. And then you just want to fold that in really well. Make sure to get along the edge here. And this is where your silicone spatula comes in incredibly handy. Because then, and you can see that even as we're doing this, the salt is drawing out some of the moisture from the butter. So what we do is we'll give it another fold or two just to let that last little bit of liquid drain off. Kind of just tip your bowl up a little bit. That way then any liquids that come up out of the butter from adding that salt pool down in the bottom of on the bottom edge of the bowl and drain away from your butter. You can see we got about a half a teaspoon of liquid or so that's come out of it so far. So we'll just keep folding like this, make sure there's no more liquid coming out. Yeah, just a little more there, so we'll let that drain down. And that will also help get rid of the last of the buttermilk that is in your butter. Don't quote me on this, but I think that's why people started salting their butter in the first place. Because of how effectively it's pulling this last bit of moisture out of the butter. And even though I don't have it cold, you can feel it actually as that last little bit of buttermilk and that liquid is drawn out. The butter actually, it feels like it's starting to firm up a little bit. So let me drain this really quick, and then we will get it in our container, and we are done. And that is how you make butter using the Lem butter churn. Seemed to work really well. I actually highly recommend it. It seems very sturdy. It holds up. And it took us about 8 minutes to go from heavy whipping cream to the butter separating. And then now, about another 15 to 20 minutes of getting the last of the buttermilk out of the butter, salting it. Total time, you're looking about 45 minutes, I would say, and you have fresh homemade butter that tastes better than anything you can buy at the store. So please like, comment, subscribe to our channel. We're new still. Share the channel around. Tell your friends about us. We're here in Las Vegas. We're a little bit different than all the other prepper and gardening channels out there. We're doing this in the middle of the desert. So, help us out. Bye for now.